Hi, Analisa Six here from the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the April 2023 horoscope for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun and Rising placements. This is my second horoscope for me outside of the Leo one because I am Sag Rising. I am burpy. I'm sorry. I'm so burpy. It's because I drink all these beverages while I'm recording and then it just makes me burpy. I have not looked at the horoscope at all for us Sag dominant people, so this is going to come as a surprise to me just as much as it is to you. I'm like very Sagittarius in the sense that I really enjoy talking about things that I've learned and that I know about. Like I love disseminating things and sharing them. I mean, that's the Leo part of me, is the sharing part, but the disseminating part is the Sag part. And I also have this like overconfidence that I don't need to make a lot of notes and study for something and that I can just wing it, which I think is also kind of Sagittarius. But then sometimes I'm like, man, I really wish that I would have made notes. But then when I sit down to write notes, I don't even know what I want to make notes about because I just have it all. It's weird. It's like if it's already written down in front of you, why make another note? And you can just use it, what's already here. And by written down in front of you, I mean this. I don't mean any like actual words. All my words are my own. Or, you know, maybe I've repeated something I've learned from somebody else along the line. I mean, haven't we all? Isn't everything that we know from somebody else that we learn from or from the consciousness in some way? Anyways, I'm just getting off on a weird tangent. It's very Sagittarius of me. Okay, Sagittarius, we're in Aries season. Today's April 8th. I'm super behind on recording these videos. And so a few of the things that we had started the month out on were already over. So part of that is some of the Aries energy. We're in Aries season right now, which is really harmonious for Sagittarius. Sagittarius is mutable fire. So it's the third sign, the third fire sign, the mutable fire sign. Aries is the cardinal fire sign, and fire likes fire. Fire makes a trine to fire, which is easy flowing, fast flowing energy. And so spring is a really positive time for fire signs in the sense that we're getting the sun boosting us, you know, in this hypercharged way. And then on top of that, we've had so much energy in the sign of Aries. We started out the month with Mercury, Jupiter, Vesta, Chiron, and the sun all in Aries. Mercury is actually not in Aries anymore as of today. I mean, not as of today, as of the 4th, but by today, we're out of that Mercury Aries energy. Mercury is in Taurus now, but we still have the sun, Jupiter, Chiron, and Vesta all in Aries. And so the area that's been highlighted for Sagittarius is the house that represents creativity, self-expression, artistic exploration and our expression, performance, our connection to children, as well as our inner child, and also romance. And so March, that was very highlighted by Venus and Jupiter, and then Mercury entered towards the end of the month. And then Juno was also there in March. And then it's highlighted again in April, having Jupiter and the sun and Chiron and Vesta still there. So if you've been really inclined to want to be creative or start creative projects or creatively express yourself in new ways, over March and the beginning of April, that's why there's an enhancement of that energy. I actually started painting for the first time ever as an adult because I've been feeling starved for creativity. And I feel like the things that I used to do to scratch that itch just haven't been as satisfying. Like the way that I like to express myself creatively is through music. Like I write songs, I play music, but that part of me, I have a lot of trauma around, and it just feels kind of, I forgot I was wearing mascara, I shouldn't wipe my eye. I have a lot of trauma around my musical side of myself. And so when I go to play music, it actually feels just really frustrating. And then I also really like to express myself through my clothes and my style, but I don't really go anywhere. Like I stay at home. I'm a stay-at-home housewife right now. And so, you know, and I live in a small town, so there's just not a lot for me to get dressed up and do when the weather's not that great and it's just been kind of bland. I'll put makeup on and a cute outfit on even just at home because it makes me feel good, but it's not like, I'm not like really creatively expressing myself to that extent in the way that I would like to. And so I just felt called to paint. I just started feeling like I need to get some paints and just do this. And so I started doing it. And it was exactly what I wanted to feel in that creative itch getting scratched. And if I didn't have to do horoscope videos today and yesterday, I would have been painting. So I'm just glad that I have something that's like kind of letting me connect to my inner child and do some creative expression in that way. And just for fun, you know, there's no intention or goal that I have with it other than to just scratch that itch. I did, however, find that painting is actually bringing me back to music in a positive way. So I had to practice for a show that I'm playing that's coming up that I really wasn't looking forward to practicing with myself, because the last few times were just, it felt negative for me, which I was bummed about. I was like, man, playing music used to be so nourishing for me, and now it just feels frustrating. But then after I painted and went and played music, it was like all of a sudden it re-inspired my music from the painting. I've never experienced that. If you're a musician who also paints and you've had that relationship with your creativity this whole time, you probably are like, yep, that's what happens to me. I've never experienced that because I never really painted as an adult. I painted in elementary school, like in a kid way that was fun. But once I got to a point where I was like, I'm playing music, I just kind of put all my energy into songwriting and that type of creativity. And obviously doing astrology and stuff is also a creative expression to some extent, but just not in the same way. So yeah, it's been cool. So that's been really relevant for me as a Sag rising and having that area highlighted. So if you've been kind of also in that state of finding things to do in a creative way, that's really important right now for us, Sag, to kind of feel like we're getting that identity back in that way. And if you're a Sag dominant person who hasn't been doing that and you've been feeling empty inside, maybe it's time that you find something new. I think it's really common for Sagittarius people to get bored easily. And so if we've done something and we feel like, oh, I already know about that, or I've already done it, it can be really hard for us to feel invigorated by it again, even if it's not true. I know for me, like, I am not that great of a musician in many ways. I am really great in some ways. And then there's still like a whole world of music that I haven't even touched, you know, or I've tried to, and then I get distracted and I don't do it anymore. It's also a very mutable sign thing. And so I know for me, like, there's other things that I could be doing with music and learning that would probably reinvigorate me. But because I have trauma around my music stuff, it makes it not as fun. And the other thing about music is, for me, sometimes I feel like, well, if I'm not going to perform it, or I'm not going to share it, or if I don't have a band to play with to take it to that next level, it sometimes feels less motivating, even though I know I don't need that. And I know it could be just as fun to play with, you know, something on the internet or just learn a new song for fun. Sometimes those stories get in my head too much for me to really enjoy the act of playing music. And I ebb and flow through that. I mean, there was a period where I was like, you know what, I don't need a band, I'm just going to write songs. And I wrote a whole solo album, and it was great. It was so, like, I feel like I went through the same feeling that I'm going through now with painting, where it was like I spent like 2 years in this creative bubble that just felt liberating and freeing and empowering. And for some reason, I'm just not there with music, you know, so I really needed to find something else that was going to do that for me. And for some reason, I'm just approaching painting in a very childlike way, you know, where there's no rules, there's no boundaries, which is something Sag really likes, having the freedom to do. And I'm doing it in an explorative way, and I'm not sharing it with anybody. It's just for me, you know, which also takes some of the pressure out of that stuff. And I don't need anybody else to do it, you know, which I also really enjoy. So if you haven't been giving something like that to yourself, and you're feeling empty or unmotivated, find something like ask your higher self, you know, meditate on it, lay down, meditate, and ask your higher self, ask your spirit, you know, if you feel like you have spiritual guides, to give you an image of you doing something that ignites that part of yourself. That's why I went to painting, was I just kept getting this image of me painting, and it was just weird because I've never been drawn to painting in that way, you know, and it was just like screaming at me. And so I sat down and just started doing it, and sure enough, I like got that feeling in my heart space of like, oh, this is really enjoyable, like it's working that part of me. We'll see how long it lasts. It could just last a few months before I'm on to the next thing, you know. That's kind of how Sag is. But either way, you know, it's positive for us to be doing things like that and letting ourselves play, you know. It's a very play energy. So now that, you know, we're in Aries season, we've got these Aries planets, but we have some other shifts. Venus is in Taurus and Mercury is now in Taurus. And so the area of the chart that's hitting for Sag dominant people. We have a lot of energy in Taurus today. We have Venus in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, Juno in Taurus, Mercury in Taurus, part of Fortune in Taurus, North Node in Taurus. It's a giant Taurus stellium. And the area that's highlighted for Sagittarius is that area that rules daily routine and health. And so what that means when we have a lot of energy highlighted here is that it's really good for us to put our eggs in that basket. I'm like, it's Easter, and I use that analogy. So it's good for us to focus on health. It's good for us to get in daily routines that are very supportive of our health and our structure and stability. It's really good for us to be of service to other people. This is the house that rules service. And there's, having Venus here is very nourishing. It's good for us to have like very nourishing, grounding, stabilizing food. It's the house that Virgo traditionally rules. So, workout routines, health routines, all that kind of stuff that brings us energy it's positive for us to be focusing on that stuff. Venus is going to be leaving Taurus on the 11th, which is only in a couple days. So we're about to enter into another new shift, and Venus is going to make a trine to Pluto. And so that's going to be impacting the area of the chart that has to do with our communication. And then Venus is going to be impacting the area of our chart that has to do with relationships. And this is actually really positive energy for evolving and enhancing communication within relationship. And Venus, when it's passing through the relationship house, brings just romance, like romantic partnered energy that feels really good. So this is a really good time if you're in a relationship or you're dating to connect with people. It's a good dating energy for people if you're trying to call in somebody. The only issue with that is that we are going to have Mercury stationing retrograde in Taurus on the 21st. So if you are dating or trying to put yourself out there, there's definitely some communication discrepancies that could happen once Mercury is stationing retrograde, and it'll be retrograde until the middle of May. So but still, like, we have this really positive energy around our relationships. But the health needs to be a priority for Sag people. It's good to slow down. It's good to anchor in. It's good to do things that build strong foundations, because the retrograde might bring up some health stuff if you're not taking care of yourself. Mars is in Cancer right now, and it's going to be in Cancer for the whole month. And the area that impacts for the Sag rising and sun person is the area of shared assets and resources. We're in tax season. This is also highlighting taxes. There might be some complications or conflict around money in that way. It's not a good time to take any risks or overspend, or it's not a good time for financial risk taking. And it's a good time to really try to get your ducks in a row in terms of financial planning, but not necessarily taking action until we're out of the Mars in Cancer and Mercury retrograde, which will be at the end of May. So the end of May, we'll have Mercury direct and Mars will enter Leo, and Venus is actually going to be in Cancer. So Venus is a better time in that area of the chart. Thank God. I'm looking at that. So I don't like seeing this stuff because this is my horoscope too. And I'm just like, the whole tax thing is just annoying me. I think we might have had an extension in California on taxes because of the rain, but I don't know if my county gets that. And I'm just like, kind of like, you know what, putting taxes off until this whole retrograde and Venus is in that area of the chart, that would be so much smarter to do. So if you have the opportunity to do taxes at the end of May instead of April, go for it, because that's way more supported for us Sag dominant people. And I'm definitely going to do my research and see if I can get away with that, because I would rather do that. I might just ask for an extension if we don't. Okay, so we had a full moon on April 6th. And that was at 16 degrees Libra. And so obviously we're not in the full moon Libra energy anymore, because the moon has moved on to Scorpio. And I think we're approaching disseminating phase. I think we're technically still in the full moon phase, but I think we're getting closer to the disseminating phase. And that area hit our connection to community and also our creativity. So this is a great time to kind of manifest what you want in terms of your friendship groups or connecting with your community. This is so relevant for me. It's crazy. I feel like I've been feeling super disconnected from my community. And I feel like this month, a lot of people have been coming out of the woodwork to connect with me. And I have weird feelings about it now that it's happening. So I'm like, where were you 2 months ago? But I've been wanting that. I've been trying to call it in. So I feel like if you're feeling more connected to your community right now and you've been a little disconnected, the Libra full moon was kind of highlighting that and trying to bring some of that energy in. We also have a solar eclipse at on the 20th in Aries. It's going to be at 29 degrees Aries. So again, this is highlighting some of that creative energy that we started out talking about, where this is a positive time for you to focus on identity expression, self-expression, who you are in your inner child of yourself. And really, how are you taking that energy into the next phase once we're not in Aries season? I think for me, like one of the things I've noticed with astrology is like, we'll have these things where certain houses are lit up and we get really into something. And then once that energy moves out, we kind of like forget about it and move on. And I feel like the way that I'm feeling about this for myself with the painting self-expression is I really hope I hold on to painting because of how liberating it's felt for me. And I think my intention already that I'm feeling for this eclipse is that I don't want to, just because like the energy is starting to move out of Aries, I don't want to lose this little pocket of what I started during the Aries season, where it really helped ignite more of a passion for something new again, because I've honestly been lacking that for a couple years now. So I'm hoping that I can kind of keep some of that momentum, and that might be kind of what the eclipse does for me. And so maybe there will be kind of a similar intention that you'll feel, where it's like, how do you hold on to your passion for things? Even when those things aren't necessarily actively like the universe isn't necessarily forcing you into them, right? And then we enter Taurus season that same day. And so again, like the sun and Mercury and the moon on the 20th are all going to be kind of highlighted in the area that has to do with your health and your routines and your mundane like structures, that you have in place. So there's a lot of themes around that. I'm really interested in that for myself too, just because I have this health issue and we are finally got health insurance, and now we're just waiting for all the paperwork so I can book all the appointments. And it's just a little nerve-wracking that the Mercury retrograde is going to be impacting that while I'm doing it. So that's something too, like if I'm making doctor's appointments while Mercury's retrograde in this area, there might be some discrepancies with that paperwork. So if you're also a Sag rising person that's dealing with health stuff, just be aware that Mercury retrograde might kind of cause some conflict with scheduling. Yeah, Mercury retrograde stations retrograde on the 21st and will be retrograde until the 15th of May. That is the down low, the 411 on April for you, Sagittarius, for me, Sagittarius, for all of us Sagittariuses out there. And I wish us luck. And I think just channel any frustration you have into something artistic and fun, and we should be good. All right, I'll see you next month.